Have you ever noticed that the better you are at your job, the worse you are at explaining it to a stranger?
Oh, yeah. It is a completely bizarre psychological phenomena.
It really is. Like, picture this. You are at a neighborhood barbecue or, maybe a networking event.
You've got a drink in your hand, you're making polite small talk.
Exactly. And then the inevitable happens. The person across from you smiles and asks those four little words, "What do you do?" And suddenly your brain just completely flatlines.
It is the ultimate deer in headlights moment. I
Mm.
mean, you could be a high-level systems architect or a master of global supply chain logistics, and yet in that exact second, all of your professional eloquence just vanishes.
Right. You find yourself stammering, trying to compress this highly complex, nuanced career into a 10-second soundbite for someone who has, well, absolutely zero context about your industry.
And it is so frustrating because you spend 40, maybe 50 hours a week living and breathing this job.
You know it inside and out,
Yeah.
but you cannot, for the life of you, explain it naturally for even one single minute.
Yeah. You end up either confusing the person or totally underselling your own expertise.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We are unpacking exactly this tension. Our source material today is actually an extensive transcript from an English language broadcast called Easy English in Real Life. It's originally aimed at language learners trying to master business English.
But what is so fascinating is that the psychological insights embedded in this breakdown apply to absolutely everyone.
Yes. The mission of this deep dive is to extract the absolute best linguistic tools and psychological tricks from that source. We want to help you sound confident, capable, and natural when you talk about your work.
Because whether you are a native speaker struggling to explain a super niche job to your parents, or you're a beginner navigating a new corporate environment, the hurdles are exactly the same.
Totally. So let's just jump right into the opening move of this interaction, the job title.
Right. And the foundational advice here is about knowing when your job title is an asset and when it is a trap.
That's right.
Trap. Look, if you have a highly recognizable, universally understood title, say you are a nurse, a graphic designer, a mechanic, you simply use the classic I am a formulation.
Because the cognitive load on the listener is essentially zero, right? I say, "I'm a nurse," and your brain instantly pulls up a framework.
Exactly. You understand the setting, you understand the stakes, you understand the general value they provide to society.
We don't have to spend 5 minutes establishing the baseline reality of my life.
Precisely. But the danger arises because the modern corporate world loves to invent incredibly convoluted, jargon-heavy titles.
Oh, don't they ever?
Yeah. Companies use titles to designate internal hierarchy, not to describe the job to the outside world. And the mistake people make is believing that being hyper accurate with their title is the same thing as being clear.
I see this all the time. Someone will be asked what they do, and they'll say something like, "I am a senior level 2 client happiness coordinator."
Right. And if you say that at a barbecue, the person you were talking to is just going to smile, nod awkwardly, and desperately look for an excuse to go refill their drink.
You have completely alienated them. There's another great example from the source material today. It's someone who works in a factory making, quote, "tiny plastic pieces for car windows."
Oh, yeah. How on earth do you explain that casually?
Right. If you just tell people I work with plastic, they are going to look at you like you've lost your mind.
Think about it like handing someone a jigsaw puzzle. When you give them a hyper-specific granular detail like the tiny plastic pieces or your level 2 status, you're basically dumping 1,000 loose puzzle pieces onto the table.
And expecting them to assemble it in real time.
Exactly. It's overwhelming. What they actually need is for you to just show them the picture on the front of the box.
I love that analogy. You have to hand them the picture on the box. And the linguistic tool to do that, according to the source, is to completely ditch your official title and instead use the phrase "I work in," followed by the general field.
Right. I work in marketing. I work in finance. I work in healthcare.
You are giving them a massive, comfortable umbrella to stand under.
Because an umbrella term prioritizes the listener's comprehension over your own need to be technically precise. When you say, I work in healthcare, you immediately establish the landscape.
And from there, if they are curious, they can ask follow-up questions. But you haven't forced them to decode a puzzle just to keep the conversation going.
This is especially critical for technical roles. Say you're a software developer and your day-to-day involves working specifically with React Native and TypeScript.
If you drop those words at a dinner party with non-engineers, you're going to get nothing but blank stares.
Yeah, it reveals a lack of fluency in social translation. You are answering a question they didn't really ask.
It's like someone casually asking if a new video game is fun to play, and you start explaining the raw underlying coding architecture and the rendering engines. It's technically true, but it uses the completely wrong tool for the job.
For those highly technical IT roles, the brilliant, foolproof umbrella term is simply, I work in tech.
Just, I work in tech.
Yeah, it is culturally understood, it's broad enough to be accurate without being restrictive, and it gives the conversation room to breathe.
And this strategy works beautifully for entrepreneurs too. If you own your own business, you don't need to get tangled up in titles like CEO or founder if that feels overly formal in a casual setting.
Right, a confident, I run my own business works perfectly.
Or to give them just a slightly sharper picture on the puzzle box, you can say, I run a media production company. It establishes your industry umbrella, it establishes your leadership role, and it sounds incredibly professional without sounding boastful.
Because ultimately, this opening move is an invitation. You are opening a door for them to step through, rather than building a wall of jargon that they have to climb over.
Okay, so you've nailed the opening. You avoided the jargon trap. You handed them the picture on the box, and you said, I work in tech, or I work in marketing. The natural human response to that broad statement is usually, oh, cool. What exactly do you do there?
And this is where a completely different kind of panic sets in.
Oh, absolutely.
Because now you actually have to bridge the gap between a broad industry and your specific daily reality. You have to explain your tasks.
Yeah.
And the default setting for human beings, when put on the spot to describe their day, is to revert to what the source calls the children's book routine.
The children's book routine, it is such a perfect description of this phenomenon. It's when people start listing mundane sequential actions as if they're reading a book for a 5-year-old.
Right. I arrive at the office at 9, I sit at my desk, I open the computer, I read the emails.
It's so painful to listen to. Why do we do that?
It's a natural defense mechanism. When our brains are caught off guard, chronological recall is the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
It's just easier to list the physical sequence of your day.
But the psychological cost of doing this is massive. When you list sequential, mundane tasks, you strip away all of your professional agency.
You really do. You sound like a passive participant in your own career. Like you were just a person that things happen to throughout the day, rather than someone who drives results.
You completely fail to convey the actual value you provide to your organization.
Exactly. To fix this, you have to upgrade your vocabulary from passive sequence to powerful action verbs. You need language that signals ownership.
Right. So instead of listing every little thing you touch, you use the phrase, I am responsible for.
Yes, I am responsible for customer service. I am responsible for training new employees. That single phrase instantly changes the dynamic.
It tells the listener that you hold a designated area of trust within your company. Another huge one we found on the source is the phrase, I handle. Like, I handle all the social media accounts, or I handle the shipping schedules.
It implies competence and control.
Mm.
And then for leadership, there's I manage or I lead, like I manage a team of 5.
These verbs reframe you from being a cog in a machine to being the person operating the machine.
Absolutely.
But I do want to play devil's advocate here for a second. If you aren't actually the boss, say you're a junior designer or mid-level support, doesn't leaning on phrases like I handle or I manage run the risk of making you sound a bit arrogant?
That is a very valid concern.
Yeah, like you're trying to inflate your own importance and sound overly corporate. You might be listening to this thinking, if I tell people I manage things when I'm really just a junior employee, I'm gonna feel like an imposter.
Finding the right tone is definitely a delicate balance.
Yeah.
You want to sound capable, but you don't want to sound detached from reality or alienate the person you're talking to. And often, in an attempt to not sound arrogant, beginners swing too far in the opposite direction.
What do they do?
They over-rely on the word help. They will say, I help the boss, or I help the clients.
Yeah, saying I help definitely makes you sound like an assistant or a sidekick rather than a professional in your own right. It diminishes your role entirely.
Precisely. It puts you in a subservient psychological position.
Well,
So, to balance the professional weight of a strong verb with the humility of teamwork, the source offers a brilliant alternative phrase.
which is?
I work closely with.
Oh, that is so good. I work closely with the design team, or I work closely with patients.
It perfectly mitigates any risk of sounding arrogant while maintaining your professional dignity. It replaces the subservient word help with a phrase that highlights collaboration over hierarchy.
It says, I am a crucial part of this ecosystem, and I operate alongside other skilled professionals.
Exactly. It is a massive upgrade in how you present your professional identity.
That is such a subtle but profound shift. It's like adjusting the depth of field on a camera lens. You go from being blurred out in the background, helping out, to being sharply in focus, working closely alongside the main action.
And this brings us to another major shift in how we talk about work. Historically, explaining what you did was enough. But the modern workplace has undergone a massive transformation.
Oh, definitely.
To paint an accurate picture of your professional life today, you also need the vocabulary to explain where and when you work.
Right, because the default assumption of driving to a downtown office building from 9 to 5 is no longer the universal reality. The vocabulary of location has exploded.
It really has.
We now have phrases like, I work remotely, or the classic, I work from home, which the source jokes usually carries the unspoken subtext that you might be wearing sweatpants during a very important meeting.
True. The casualization of work is a huge part of this shift, but it also highlights the need for highly modern terminology, like the hybrid schedule.
The hybrid schedule. This is when you mix working from home with going into the office, like saying you only go into the physical building on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
But then for physical jobs, the vocabulary shifts entirely. You wouldn't say you work remotely if you're in construction.
No, you'd say, I work on site.
Right. And for healthcare or retail, the phrase is, I work on the floor.
And beyond location, we have to consider how we talk about time and travel. There is a distinct difference between a commute, which is that daily geographic journey, usually accompanied by complaints about traffic, and working shifts.
Right. Shifts describe changing blocks of continuous work time, like a 12-hour night shift at a hospital or a manufacturing plant.
You know, looking at how much weight these terms carry, it makes you wonder, are we actually just describing our location anymore?
What do you mean?
Well, when I tell someone I work remotely or that I have a hybrid schedule, I'm not really giving them my GPS coordinates. I feel like I'm signaling something about my lifestyle. Like I'm telling them about my autonomy, my work-life balance, my flexibility.
You've hit on the exact sociological shift happening right now.
Yes.
Absolutely. When you use words like hybrid or remote,
Yeah.
you are telegraphing the boundaries of your life.
Wow.
You are communicating how your career integrates with your personal time. These terms have almost become cultural status symbols. They tell the listener not just what tasks you perform, but the environment and the degree of freedom in which you perform them.
It adds incredible color and context to your professional identity. So we've established the industry umbrella, we've upgraded our verbs to show professional agency, and we've used lifestyle vocabulary to signal our boundaries.
Which leaves the final piece of this conversational puzzle.
How we talk about the daily grind itself, the people we deal with, and the rooms we sit in. And there are some fascinating linguistic traps that people fall into when trying to describe the awkward realities of office life.
The first major trap revolves around how we describe meetings. A very common phrasing, particularly for people who feel bogged down by corporate culture, is to say something to the effect of, I stay in many meetings.
I stay in meetings. Oh man, when you say that, you sound like a hostage. Like you are physically barricaded inside a conference room and HR won't let you leave.
Exactly. The verb stay implies a total lack of movement or choice. It reinforces that passive victim mentality we talked about earlier. The psychological fix is to use an active verb.
So what should you say instead?
You say, I am in meetings all day. Or even better, the active and professional. I attend a lot of meetings.
I attend. That sounds so much better. And it's not just that you attend them, it's distinguishing what kind of meetings they are.
Right.
There is a world of difference between a status update, which is usually just sitting around a table while everyone justifies their existence by saying what they did yesterday, versus a brainstorming session where people are actively collaborating and generating wild new ideas.
Having that nuance in your vocabulary allows you to express not just that you occupied a chair in a room, but the actual quality and purpose of the time spent in that room. It shows the listener that you evaluate the utility of your time.
Now, there is another fantastic trap that often catches technical workers, particularly software engineers. People will often describe their job by saying, I make the code.
Oh, yes, the coding trap.
And when I saw this in the source material, I immediately thought of an analogy. Saying, I make the code is exactly like a highly trained Michelin star executive chef saying, I built a sandwich.
That is brilliant. Yes, exactly.
I mean, logically, it makes sense. I understand what you are communicating, but it uses a completely generic, blunt instrument for a highly specialized skill. It instantly reveals that you aren't fluent in the nuances of your own trade.
Make is a utility verb. It lacks precision and craftsmanship. The specific industry verb for software is, of course, I write code.
Just changing that one word from make to write elevates the sentence from a generic mechanical description to a statement of professional craftsmanship.
It shows you belong to the culture of that industry.
Which brings us to the people in that industry, how we describe our colleagues. It's very common to refer to the people at the office as my friends from work.
But that can blur professional boundaries in a way that sometimes undermines your authority. It's often much stronger to use coworkers, or if you want to sound slightly more formal and established, colleagues.
And when you want to describe a positive dynamic with those colleagues without sounding like you're just running a social club, there is a fantastic phrasal verb from the broadcast. I get along great with my team.
It communicates a highly functional, friendly, and collaborative relationship, but it maintains the professional framework.
There's one more linguistic reframing here that I think is incredibly powerful, and it's about how we describe adversity. Everyone's job gets tough, but how do you describe that difficulty to a stranger?
Right? A lot of people will just sigh and say, my work is very hard.
But the psychological upgrade to that is to say, my job is pretty demanding.
Think about the massive difference in connotation between those two words. Hard implies that the work is a burden. It implies physical exhaustion, or simply that you are struggling to comprehend what you are supposed to be doing.
It sounds like you are being defeated by the job, like you're the victim of the work. But demanding changes the entire narrative.
Exactly. Demanding implies that the job requires a high level of skill, intense focus, and significant energy. It reframes a daily struggle into a high-level professional challenge.
It subtly communicates to the listener that you are capable of meeting high expectations.
It is a phenomenal upgrade.
And you know, the anxiety around getting this right is so real. I was reading in the source that people are actually using AI tools like smart voice assistants, like Mr. English AI, to simulate these exact kinds of casual business conversations.
Okay.
They practice saying, I attend meetings or my job is demanding to a robot, getting real-time feedback just to build up the muscle memory before they have to do it at a networking event with a real human being.
It just reinforces the core reality of this entire discussion. Explaining your job is not an objective transfer of data. It is a performance of your professional identity.
That's a great way to put it.
And like any performance, it requires the right script, the right framing, and a bit of rehearsal.
So let's bring all of this together for the listener. If you want to stop freezing up when someone hands you a drink and asks what you do, you need to implement these psychological shifts.
First, stop handing people 1,000 puzzle pieces.
Find your umbrella. Ditch the hyper-specific, confusing title and just tell them the broad industry you work in to eliminate their cognitive load.
Second, abandon the children's book routine. Stop chronologically listing every mundane thing you touch and start utilizing powerful verbs of agency like handle, manage, and work closely with.
Third, use modern lifestyle vocabulary like hybrid schedule or remote to signal your autonomy and paint a picture of your daily reality.
And finally, smooth out those awkward direct translations.
Yeah.
You don't stay in meetings, you attend them. You don't make code, you write it. And your job isn't just hard, it is demanding.
Which naturally leads to the most important implication of all of this. We've spent this entire time analyzing how these specific vocabulary tweaks change the way other people perceive you. But the real magic happens internally.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the psychology of linguistic determinism for a second. The idea that the words we use eventually shape our actual reality.
Right.
If you actively change your vocabulary, if you stop walking around telling people, I help out, and you start telling them, I am responsible for, if you stop sighing and saying, my work is hard, and start confidently stating, my job is demanding, does this language shift eventually change how you view yourself?
Undoubtedly.
Hmm.
You cannot repeatedly articulate a narrative of professional agency and ownership without it eventually altering your self-perception.
It's so true.
When you frame your work as demanding rather than hard, you start to see yourself as someone capable of meeting demands rather than someone suffering through hardship.
Exactly. If you start speaking about your daily work with ownership, clear boundaries, and professional gravity, you might just start believing in your own professional value a whole lot more. So the next time you're at that neighborhood barbecue and someone smiles and asks you those four little words,
Remember that you are just answering a question,
you're telling them exactly what you are worth.
and you are doing it without ever having to mention those tiny plastic car windows.
That is the ultimate win. Thank you for exploring the psychology of professional language with us today. We will see you on the next deep dive.